5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The original concept of Grand Theft Auto was to produce a fun, addictive, and fast multiplayer car racing and crashing game which uses a novel graphics method. You know, when it comes to video games, few have seen a transformation quite like GTA. From the simple 2D graphics of the late 90s to the stunningly realistic visuals we see today, GTA's evolution has been nothing short of mind-blowing. The development of the first GTA game began on April 4th, 1995, at DMA Design in Dundee, Scotland. Initially, it was a racing game called Race and Chase, which later evolved into a pizza delivery theme, then to a cop game, and finally settled on the player being a criminal. The game was intended for MS-DOS, Windows 95, PlayStation, Sega Saturn, and Nintendo 64, although it was never released on the latter two consoles. The development process was tough. There were several times when people tried to stop the project, so the team had to keep fighting to keep it going. On a now-deleted blog, Abi Vermij, who joined DMA Design in 1995, shared some thoughts about the early stages of development. By the time I got there, the game had already gone through a number of changes. The game originally started from a tech demo made by Mike Daly. It was a top-down view with 3D buildings on top. This was before 3D cards, and it was hard to get 3D to run at a decent frame rate. Mike's demo used code similar to Doom to draw the 3D effect. So the developers wanted to create a unique open-world game, allowing players to engage in various criminal activities within a sprawling urban environment. This concept was groundbreaking at the time, focusing more on gameplay freedom and less on graphical fidelity. The game featured a functional but not fancy visual style, using crude sprite-based graphics. But what really made it stand out was its huge scope. Players could steal cars, explore a detailed city, and complete missions in any order. Also, one of the most interesting parts of the game's early development was its controversial nature. The freedom to engage in criminal activities such as car theft and violent acts sparked significant public and political backlash. This controversy only increased the game's profile, leading to discussions in the UK Parliament and protests in various countries. Despite the negative attention, or perhaps because of it, the game became one of the best-selling titles on the PlayStation in its release year. GTA never looked like it was going to be as successful as it was. There were higher hopes for Body Harvest and other games, and in fact initially, the game didn't sell that well. It was only after some controversy around the violent nature of the game arose that sales picked up. Despite the gaming industry's shift towards 3D graphics by the late 1990s, GTA 2 continued to utilize a top-down 2D perspective with sprite-based graphics similar to its predecessor, and the decision to maintain this graphical style was caused by several factors. The developers at DMA Design aimed to refine and expand upon the original gameplay experience, rather than overhaul the visual style, so they focused on enhancing the game world, introducing a more dynamic and immersive environment. GTA 2 featured a fictional retro-futuristic metropolis known as Anywhere City, designed to feel more alive and interactive. According to Obe, the first GTA had been a little rushed, and the team was keen to fix more bugs and add more polish. Especially the lighting system needed improvement, and that's why the lighting in GTA 2 looks a lot nicer. The game was set in the near future, which required a lot of changes, particularly with weapons. The game's graphics, while not groundbreaking, were functional and served the gameplay's needs, but it led to mixed reviews because critics were not happy with it and noted that there was no significant improvement from the original GTA. On the other side, the graphical style kept the system requirements modest, making the game accessible to a broader audience. An interesting addition to GTA 2 was its use of a live-action short film as an introductory sequence, setting the tone for the game's narrative. So the video that was playing in the background ever since I started talking about GTA 2 is the game's intro, but it's based on an over 8-minute short film shot in New York City, showing the story of the main character Claude Speed. According to Vermij, GTA was successful because of its wildly innovative gameplay, the living, breathing world, and the controversy, so the team started on GTA 2 immediately. The game was called GBH, meaning Grievous Bodily Harm, until a deal with the publisher was finalized. Although GTA 2 was more polished and visually appealing than the original, it did not achieve the same level of commercial success. However, it laid the groundwork for the significant advancements that would come with GTA 3.
Do you believe that this game is offensive to the youth of America and will turn you into a horrible, violent person?
Yes.
That game marked a significant leap for the series by transitioning from 2D to a fully 3D open world. This shift was groundbreaking in terms of gameplay, but the graphics, while revolutionary for the series, were not the most advanced compared to other games released in 2001. However, many players were still accustomed to PS1 and N64 graphics, so they didn't notice or care much about the relatively bad graphics. The development of GTA 3 was a collaborative effort between the Edinburgh-based team at DMA Design, which later became Rockstar North, and the New York team at Rockstar Games. The New York team handled voice acting, story elements, and stylistic decisions, while the Edinburgh team focused on modeling, level design, and coding. Vermeij shared additional insights from the development. The first prototype of GTA 3 ran on a Dreamcast. We all had Dreamcasts and all played Phantasy Star Online. This didn't last long as the Dreamcast lost out to PlayStation 2, and we switched. The transition to the PS2 posed new challenges, but ultimately allowed the game to reach a broader audience. The game took about 2.5 years to develop, a relatively short time for such an ambitious project. This rapid development was facilitated by several factors. The design was clear from the start. The GTA 1 team started with a racing game, evolved that into a pizza delivery theme, then a cop game, and finally settled on the player being a criminal. We didn't have to do any of this. The design was obvious, GTA 1 in 3D, and we could focus on the missions from day one. Rockstar New York didn't interfere much. They were happy to let us design and build the game, and they dealt with the business and marketing. When a developer and publisher have different ideas, it can make things difficult. Most people on the team had worked together, and most had at least one commercial game under their belt. This was rare in those days when the industry was still in its infancy. The way of working was organic. People would come up with ideas for missions and we would just try them. If they were fun, they were in. The story was only secondary. For most of development, the game was in a sorry state. It crashed frequently, the frame rate was terrible, and the map was full of holes. It was only in the last 5 months or so that everything came together and the game became playable. Despite the challenges, the development of GTA 3 was an enjoyable experience for the team. Every day there was something new going in. A new mission, radio station, car, pedestrian building, or whatever. Things were added at a good rate. Vermeij also reflected on the work-life balance during the project's development. Although everybody worked hard, I don't remember many people doing crazy hours. On the rare occasions that I was in over the weekend, there were usually only 1 or 2 others. Even during crunch time, most people left the office around 9 or 10. What's surprising, the success of GTA 3 was not anticipated until late in the development cycle. Did I think the game was going to do as well as it did? It always looked like it had the potential, but there are so many things that can go wrong. We didn't know we had made something special until late on in development. Then there was the GTA Vice City, which initially was going to be a DLC for GTA 3, but eventually evolved into a standalone game due to the ambitious scope of its new features and setting. The development team at Rockstar North, already familiar with the existing codebase from GTA 3, quickly transitioned to working on Vice City, while some programmers were still finalizing the PC port of the previous installment. There was a 6 weeks gap between finishing GTA 3 and the release. This was needed for burning the CDs and distribution. In those days, you couldn't patch, so there was no point hanging around. The company gave the team some time off, and most people took some extra time also. The game maintained the core mechanics and graphical style of GTA 3, keeping the same engine and many similar assets. This decision allowed the developers to focus on enhancing the game's atmosphere and narrative rather than building everything from scratch. The vibrant, neon-soaked setting of Vice City, heavily inspired by 1980s Miami and pop culture references like Scarface and Miami Vice, required significant effort in world building. To capture the essence of Miami, the team conducted field research in the city, which influenced the game's aesthetic and environmental design. Vermeij recalled, "The company paid for an all-expenses-paid trip to Miami for the whole team. We stayed in a hotel on Miami Beach, and it was a total blast. The artists brought their cameras and some of them went around collecting textures. Some of them spent the week in the bar next to the hotel. I caught a Dolphins and Miami Heat game." Similar to GTA 3, the team had to deal with streaming issues to ensure the game world loaded seamlessly as players moved through it. But despite these hurdles, Vice City introduced several new features that distinguished it from its predecessor. These included the ability to ride motorcycles, a broader range of weapons, and a more detailed and interactive city environment. The narrative depth was also enhanced by hiring notable actors like Ray Liotta to voice the main character, Tommy Vercetti. To get Ray Liotta to voice the main character was huge. In those days, actors still considered games a step down from movies. Liotta was perfect for the part. The development cycle was intense, with the team given just 12 months to complete the game. This tight schedule was more stressful than the development of GTA 3, but it ultimately resulted in a highly acclaimed game that became one of the best-selling titles of 2002. I remember working on Vice being more stressful than GTA 3. There was a tight deadline of 1 year and high expectations. In addition, there was the PC conversion of GTA 3 in the same year. However, during this year, it became clear how successful GTA 3 was, and we got award after award. Everybody just powered through on adrenaline. The combination of these efforts resulted in a game that not only met, but exceeded the high expectations set by its predecessor. GTA Vice City sold over 17.5 million copies and won numerous awards for its engaging gameplay, rich soundtrack, and immersive open-world design. Vice City was a mad dash to get done in time. Everybody was worn down, and it was clear another one-year game was not an option. In addition, it was obvious that Vice City hadn't innovated that much, and another reskin wasn't going to fly. This is why San Andreas got 2 years of development time. Our confidence as a team was sky high, and with the longer development cycle, we felt we could be ambitious with the new features for San Andreas. In my opinion, the additional year allowed them to create a truly timeless and amazing game that I think is the best of the trilogy. The game built upon the success of its predecessors, using the same renderware engine, but with significant enhancements. One of the most significant technical challenges was the seamless integration of the 3 cities within a single map. Initially, there was a debate about whether to follow the approach of the first GTA game, where each city was on a separate map, which would save memory resources. Vermage explained, "There was one particular meeting that I still have nightmares about. In Rockstar North, we would usually make the big game decisions with 5 people. 3 people wanted the cities to be on different maps. I wanted the cities to be on the same map, as it is important to be able to drive between cities, even if this meant we'd have to find some memory elsewhere. The 5th guy wasn't there that day. The following day, the 5th guy agreed with me, and disaster averted. The inclusion of RPG elements, such as character customization, skills development, and physical changes based on player actions, introduced new gameplay dynamics, but also posed significant challenges. If the player ate too much, CJ would be too fat to climb certain walls or run fast. This made certain missions impossible. QA had to catch all these cases. To create an authentic experience, Rockstar organized research trips to California, where the team took numerous reference photos to accurately depict the game's setting. They hired a bunch of town cars, and we drove between Vegas, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. The artists took pictures. It was loads of fun. But the development of San Andreas was not without its hurdles, including a multitude of bugs and glitches. One notable bug involved helicopters being recreated upside down when stored in garages. When a garage door closed, the game would remove the vehicles inside to reduce RAM usage on aging PlayStation 2 hardware. Upon reopening the garage, the vehicles were recreated based on their stored positions and attributes, leading to glitches like inverted helicopters. That's just one bug, and according to GTAVI, the game had around 70,000 bugs throughout the whole development. The scope of San Andreas required a larger team and extended development time. The team expanded significantly, with the inclusion of developers from the Manhunt team, resulting in around 80 developers working on the game. Despite the larger team, the project still required intense crunch periods towards the end. For most of the time, development was manageable, certainly less stressful than Vice City. To finish it off, a good stretch of crunch was required. The company got a chef to provide a good meal for those working late. That really helped. The game's release was a major event, marked by excitement and anticipation from fans. Vermage fondly remembered the midnight launch. On the day of release, stores opened at midnight. It was a cold, rainy night, but I went to have a look anyway at one of the big stores in Edinburgh. I didn't expect it to be too busy, but there was a line of 50 meters or so. I bumped into 2 artists from the office doing the same thing. We were standing there looking at all these people being so excited. People got their game and hurried straight home to play the game we'd made, all through the night. It was magical. The sequel to this video, focusing on the development of the next GTA trilogy, 4, 5, and 6, is coming soon. So hit the subscribe button and the bell to stay updated.